Red, when I ran for office and got elected, I never considered myself to be intellectual. I was more commonsensical in the way I looked at things. I was a business person from the private sector. I had to adapt and adopt some of my business beliefs and practices to politics, but I always looked and searched out conservative intellects because they could articulate things in a very intellectual way that I needed to completely and totally understand. And one of the people I stumbled upon very early in my political life was Charles Krauthammer. There's a kind of a belief amongst politicos that, a lot of conservatives are simpletons and we don't think about the complexities, the philosophies it takes to make a government endure and the balance between people doing what they do and government doing what it does. And I think, Dr. Thigpen comes in on Friday. He talks about the effect William Buckley had on his life. And I've always argued that Charles Krauthammer had as much to do with me becoming as intellectual as my aptitudinal horsepower will allow. And I'm excited to have his son with us this morning. Daniel Krauthammer is with us, and Daniel is here to talk about a book he's edited on behalf of his late father, The Point of It All, a lifetime of great loves and endeavors. Good morning, Daniel, and thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, Ken. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, I think this would be interesting to our listeners. I know the incidental effect your father had on me as a politician. As a father, how much politics was involved in the father-son relationship, or was it more traditional in that sense?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, I guess. I think people sometimes picture us, wearing 18th century wigs and debating on podiums or something. But I mean, there's some truth to that assumption, I guess. In our house growing up, my dad loved politics, loved history, philosophy, and these things were just kind of part and parcel to what it was like to grow up, and just things that would come up at the kitchen table, or when we'd go on long car trips, we'd listen to books on tape that would be history or political philosophy or something. So it was definitely around, and so much, I think, of my kind of fundamental foundational knowledge comes from that, and I built my own on top of it. But it was more just relaxed and fun. It wasn't kind of, let's sit down and debate politics. It was, oh, we're at the kitchen table. Like, did you hear about this? And, oh, isn't that interesting? Did you read what so-and-so read? And so it was kind of more like a fun tennis volley or a chess match or something like that.
Daniel, The Point of It All, a book, it's a lifetime of great loves and endeavors by Charles Krauthammer, edited by yourself. What is the book about, and how exciting was it for you, despite your father's passing, to be allowed to edit, I guess, his final writings?
Right. Well, as you can guess by the title, The Point of It All, it's not exactly a narrow focus. So it's summing it up is kind of a challenge because it covers so much. And he does cover things, everything from his personal passions and loves like baseball and chess and space exploration, to his personal life, to what it was like to be a father, and his relationship to family and friends, and what makes relationships great, and then to the big political issues of the day, everything from questions of life and death to foreign policy and kind of the big challenges to our democracy in the next century. And I think what ties it all together, though, is that I think he saw that the point of it all, so to speak, and it comes out in so many articles in the book, he saw as for everyone to find their own meaning, to find your own passions, your own connections in life, and to define your destiny yourself. But he saw that all depends on getting our politics right, that if you don't have freedom, if you don't have liberty and a democracy that holds strong, all of that wonderful personal element in life can be wiped away. And that unity, I think, makes the book really extraordinary in that it connects so much from the deeply personal to the most grand historical. And it was, exciting to see that and go through it and put it together. It was very difficult, to be honest, both emotionally and also just practically speaking, given the huge body of his work. But it was also deeply meaningful and felt right and good to do it for him. And it was intellectually kind of wonderful to discover so many articles that he had written from over 4 decades that still feel just as relevant and important today and hold true and drive home important points that make me think more deeply about our politics and about life today even.
Daniel, if someone wants to purchase the book, I mean, if someone was a fan, and I hesitate to use that word, I don't think Charles Krauthammer didn't impress me to be the kind of guy that wanted fans. He wanted people that listened to his commentary and comments and take very seriously what his opinions were. I think the beauty of talk radio is I'm allowed to be an opinion monster. Charles Krauthammer gave opinions, but people cared deeply. I mean, even the other side, he was a conservative and a principled conservative, I would argue. Even people on the other side cared what Charles Krauthammer had to say. If someone's interested in what he did have to say in relation to this book you've edited, how can they find it and what can they expect? I guess as someone who knows a lot about Charles Krauthammer and then someone who knows very little about the good and decent life your father led.
Yeah. Well, the best place to find it, I would say, is my father's official website, charleskrauthammer.com, and people can find the book there, order it from wherever they want through that website, and also learn more about my dad and his writings and his legacy with a lot of other material on that website, charleskrauthammer.com. But in terms of what people might find in the book, I think for those who know my dad and have read him for a long time, I think they'll find a lot of stuff in here that that they will realize they missed. Some of, I think, his most interesting, important articles on the biggest political issues are in here. There's quite a few new articles, never been published before, a long essay on the challenges of populism and authoritarianism in the coming century, several speeches that have never been published, so a lot of new material that really get at the big ideas of his philosophy and his view of history. And I think also people will be really pleasantly surprised and enjoy the personal elements in this book. And there's a lot in here that hasn't been seen before on that front, and I think it connects people to my dad's sense of not just politics, but how to live life, which I think, to me, was something that was so rewarding and powerful to be able to put in here. And I've heard from so many people these last months, in a way that I never could really even fathom before, how much they look to him not just for political views, but as an example of someone who lived a good life. And I think one of the most powerful, important parts of the book is that aspect of how he lived his life, his philosophy, and his example, really, of how to define your life for yourself and make it what you want it to be.
Very well said. Daniel, we appreciate your time. And once again, the best way to purchase the book is via your father's website.
Right, charleskrauthammer.com.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Ken. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate your time this morning. Have a great day.
You too.